to our February meeting, everyone. So, firstly, are there any apologies? So we've got Councillor Keynes online. Councillor Keynes. So I've got everyone else here. Okay.
Councillor Mealings is
not. Councillor Mealings, I haven't. So she's possibly the lateness. So we might just record that. So no apologies to be recorded at this point. Or hear from Councillor Mealings in due course. Okay. Any conflicts of interest for recording today? Okay, we come to acknowledgements, and there were three Royal Honours which the New Year's Honours list. So we had Mrs. Margaret Christopher's of Pegasus for services to Paralympic sports, Mr. Ross McQueen of Rangiora for services to the community, and to Mr. Darryl Smith of Rangiora for services to survivors of abuse and care. I've contacted each to pass on the congratulations of us all, and also followed up the letter. We've all, as we have done in previous years, organised a morning tea to acknowledge and celebrate that. I think it's really important to do that because getting these honours is something really lovely, and I think for their family and some friends to come and share that with us, and we pass on our congratulations. So we acknowledge those three. We also I'd like to acknowledge Mike Power. I went to his second retirement last week. He was a long time roading staff member, looked after a lot of our roads in our district. Can't remember his exact title with Cycon and Encord, but worked for Excel and had started his work for the council. 30 years service to our district, and also into North Canterbury as in his later years was brought back to help manage the unsealed network. Mike has done an outstanding job in that space. It's not easy managing a roading network, especially the unsealed network. Their nickname is Boulder because he's from Roxburgh, and apparently I asked one day, where's that come from? It's apparently it was the size of the aggregate down there. They deal with boulders, not shingle. So it was just, I thought I should just acknowledge his service here today. It was a nice farewell last week. Lives in resident in Waikuku. Right, is there any other items to be acknowledged? Right, so we come to confirmation of the minutes of our meeting on the 3rd of December. Is someone here to move? Jason, seconded. Councillor Ward. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, declare that carried. Are there any matters arising from the minutes? No. No deputations and presentations. No adjourned business. So we come to reports. Item 7.1, which is the parking management plan project. Parking demand in Rangiora Town Centre. So in Parkway. So Roland Hiker and the team forward. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The report that you have in front of you is being written on behalf of the Park Management Plan Project Advisory Group, and it is a topic that we've come to you with on several occasions last year through workshops and other type of stakeholder engagement. The report seeks that the Council approve for us to consult on the proposed approaches to meeting and managing parking demand and supply in Rangiora and Kaiapiti Town Centres out to 2040. It most recently follows a workshop that we had with you in December where we discussed these approaches. We took on your feedback and they've now been reflected in the approaches that are in front of you. Attached to this report is a feedback form, some technical and background information. I'll point out at this point that unfortunately it looks as though attachment 1 hasn't made it onto your agenda, so that was an error. You do have it tabled in front of you there, so if you don't mind, I'll just spend a minute or so talking through that so that you're comfortable and familiar with it. But essentially we're looking at undertaking public consultation over February. We will then come back to you in March with a workshop on what we've heard through public consultation and what the direction and the content of the final parking management plan document will be. That will come to you in May for implementation, for adoption. So just briefly on attachment 1 that's tabled in hard copy in front of you, that's the Let's Talk consultation material, and it briefly covers why we need to think about a parking plan for the town centres. So it highlights that we're a growing district, that parking, providing parking is really important aspects to making our town centres successful. They need to meet a variety of needs, and it's important input the consultation outcomes for developing a parking management plan. It then goes on to talk about parking trends and projections, what our goal is around the occupancy range that we're aiming for, what that actually means in real terms. That currently our surveys are showing us that we do have ample parking available in both town centres, noting that some areas are going to be busier than others, but that in the future the models are showing us that have been informed by inputs such as population growth and land use changes that come 2040, we're still reasonably comfortable in Kaipoi, but for Rangiora we're going to have a demand for additional parking at a reasonably significant level. So the consultation material then outlines briefly the three strategic approaches for managing parking and what our staged approach is. So it includes what you have in your report, which is figure 3, the colourful diagram that essentially puts it all in one place of what we're proposing here. You may notice that while you've seen that in the past, that does reflect some of the feedback you get, all of the feedback that you gave us back in December, so we've made some changes to that. It then briefly talks about the key project inputs, and it will then flow straight into the feedback form, which is in your report. So that will be updated on the public website. You may also note that recommendation D of your report does nominate the General Manager for Strategy, Engagement and Economic Development to approve any minor edits to the consultation material. So should you have any further comments or tweaks to the attachment that you've only just seen, there is an opportunity still to make some edits to that. At that point, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Shane, do you have anything on that? Just on point down, I consider that the portfolio holders are also included in the finalisation of that. So that's both Councillor Redmond and myself that hold the roading and transport portfolios in addition to the manager. I think that's normally how we would manage those things. So someone might test that later on. Councillor Fulton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mike, for this report. What is the case for continuing with the Kaipoi consultation in detail that we are, given the park demand? We haven't heard a scare of suggestion that there's a immediate or even medium-term problem with Kaipoi yet we're continuing. So, I don't know if you to answer, but it just occurs to me that we keep on coming back to Kaipoi when there's no apparent problem.
It's a good point. I guess what my answer would be is that there are still tools that we're looking at applying for better managing, particularly the existing resource in Kaipoi, so it's probably still appropriate and relevant to share that with the wider community. There would have been expectations raised that we are developing a parking management plan. It will most likely be a single document that addresses both of the town centres as opposed to it being a separate document for Kaipoi, and that acknowledges the fact that they're both of our main town centres that have that demand from across the district, but the tools for Kaipoi are different. So we are being really clear that because we have modelled and have come to the conclusion that there isn't necessarily the need to invest a whole lot of future infrastructure necessarily in Kaipoi all going well, there are a lot of things we can do to address manage the current environment better.
And so is there a relativity by the time we got to 2040 with Kaipoi, we could equally have problems Pegasus Ravenwood equally. So that's sort of all concurrent, isn't it? There's a bit of catch up.
It's a good prompt to remind you that we took a report to you last July that you approved a program approach for developing parking management plans. Rangiora and Kaipo Town Centre are first off the rank because of their relative size and demand and so forth, but there is an intention to develop park management plan for our other centres over the next few years. And at the same time, much like any of our other plans and strategies, there will be an ongoing review all the time, so we're not necessarily setting something in stone now that will be delivered by 2040, and particularly those longer range investment options, we've ensured that we've got ample opportunity to be flexible in here in the years particularly leading up to that for Rangiora.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor. Oh, sorry, Councillor.
Sorry, wait.
You go first, Councillor. I'll come to Councillor.
I'm sorry, I'm just pointing.
Oh, you were. I'm sorry. Councillor, thank you. Sorry, Councillor Keynes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just question, Ika, just in regards to what you've tabled, is there anything in there with regard to cycles and the parking of cycles, particularly in Kaiapoi, please?
Thank you, Councillor Keynes. Yes, absolutely. So that was one of the pieces of key feedback we took back from Council after the workshop in December that you'd like to see reflected, something that includes within its scope special parking such as mobility parking and cycle parking. So you may notice that under the optimise existing, which is the blue bubble, if you will, in figure 2 in your report, there is a bullet point in there that now acknowledges on an ongoing basis we will continue to review parking for those special uses. So absolutely it's within the scope.
Wonderful, thank you, Ika.
Thank you. Any further questions? Right, so we've got a recommendation here. I did mention before about inclusion of the portfolio holders. Is someone here to move? Councillor Ward, seconded. I'll second. Councillor Redmond Ken, do you wish to speak, Councillor?
I just want to say that we've had a lot of discussion and meetings and over the last few months, and it's a very important strategy that we need to make sure we cover off for the future as well as the present. And thank you so much for all the work you do. It's great, and it's good that it's going to the consultation now so that we can put things in place. So
thank you. Just for completeness, Kay, it inserts nominates the General Manager, which is here, along with the Councillor Bedland and myself as relevant portfolio holders, and then the rest as is. You've got that? Yep. Assume the remover's happy with that. Second, yes. Do you wish to speak, Catherine?
Just briefly to say that I'll be interested in the feedback from this consultation. Historically, Kaiapoi has always thought, shall we say, that there was a parking issue, and I think certainly historically there has been. In recent years that's been addressed, and it is interesting to see that Rangiora is now taking its turn with the parking demand. So I'm happy to support the recommendation and look forward to receiving feedback from residents.
Thank you. Councillor Mills.
Thank you, and thank you for your work on this, team. I think it bears reminding people that the reason why we have to do this is because the NPSUD, the National Policy Statement for Urban Development, has removed Council's ability to require developers of any kind, whether they're commercial or residential, to provide parking in their developments. And when asked how we deal with that, we've been told we must have a strategic parking plan to figure that out. So that's made that our problem. And I think that what you've done here is prudent, given that we are a growth council, we're experiencing a lot of growth. This is actually talking about a strategy up to 2040. So not necessarily tomorrow, but it's actually looking at the long game and the wide picture. And I think you've done a really good job of assessing where we're at right now, what we need right now, and what we'll need for the future, and putting things in place for us to actually deal with that if and when it comes. So thank you.
Thank you, and I also speak in support. There's been a lot of work that's gone into this, including a number of workshops. We've had some key stakeholders that have come in as well and provided feedback. So I think there's been a lot of work already go into the proposed consultation, and also undertaking the revision of studies as well, which has enabled some of that data to be assessed. I regularly get feedback around our town centre and how busy our town centres are, and in particular here in Rangiora now, it's certainly with new retail experiences, the fact that people are coming here from town, and the same in Kaiapoi, there is certainly that busyness, which is really, really good. So I think it's important that we do have a strategy for managing that, and that we are looking at being creative in that space. And I really like one of the suggestions that came out of one of the briefings in working party meetings was a restricted parking trial area where there may be the ability for those that wish to pay for all-day parking. I regularly hear that in the town, that it doesn't work for some that nearby with their businesses, or come here for a set period. They would like that ability to be nearby, and they're prepared to pay for it. Well, now's the time to test that and see if there is a desire for that. I'd like, personally, would really like us to see trialling that, to see whether there is, and with technology you can do that relatively easy, as I understand, and nominating a set area. We've had discussion about that, and I know that's one of the items listed in the consultation. Where that will be determined, but that I think is important. It's also important that we get on and prioritise addressing Blake Street car park, because I think that's one with better usage of land. We can get better outcomes there than is there now. I don't want to see the landscaping or the trees removed necessarily, but how that's laid out, and with obviously with the completion of minibus trust elsewhere now, almost it means that that other building, albeit we've got a tenant in there presently, that can be finally removed, and we get on in addressing that area. The other is now the town hall also has had that levelled, not the town hall, but the police building next door. That will enable that to be asphalted and add to the capacity. But I am especially interested in our other areas. It's not just Rangiora and Kaiapoi. I know we did do some work in Oxford particularly, but as Ravenswood comes on stream, the impact in broadly Woodend and other settlements and other areas, in Pegasus, we don't want to miss those out, and keep an eye on those as we go forward, because it's nice that we actually have the problem with our town centres being busy, but we don't want to lose track of it. So I think having a strategy is great, but it's something that we'll always need to be keeping a constant eye on as going through this exercise. Will be something we will continue to keep an eye on to see what other changes, and as technology comes about, how we can better use that. So I support that going out, and we'll look forward to hearing public opinion on that. Any other comments? Councillor Fulton.
Thanks, Mayor. Probably as further line of my question, I do acknowledge Councillor Mealings and others who talked about strategy and regulatory requirements. I'll be interested to see whether the feedback from public consultations marries up with basically the parking patterns. Would seem limited to a certain number of streets even, or areas within Rangiora where it would be perhaps an intense issue across a small number of days, across some days of the week. That's not to diminish the scope of the problem, but yeah, I'd say for me, focus your efforts on the hot spots for now, to keep the strategy in mind in the background. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments?
I just would like to reiterate that if we could keep in mind, and I'm sure it might come through, when we're planning the time, and particularly in Rangiora, the time that people, it's really important that people can shop or park and shop within walking distance of the retail outlets. But keep in mind, the ladies that come to Ringura want to spend a lot of time and have lunch and also go to the hairdressers, and maybe instead of 2 hours, they might need 3 hours. So some space where they can do that, that would be really important as well. Thank you.
Well, important considerations, only takes 10 minutes to have my haircut. We'll put the recommendation, if it's lucky. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary?
Aye.
Clear that carried. Thank you. We'll look forward to the consultation. Thanks, Heike, and all the work that's gone into that. Right, we're now at 7.2, which is the request to bring forward budget for Kendall Park Sport Field Advisory Grant.
Good morning. This report is seeking approval to proceed with the implementation of the installation of the replacement sport field lighting at Kendall Park. The original budget was split across 2 financial years, with the design in the current financial year and implementation in the 25-26 year. It really wasn't initially obvious as to whether or not the intent of the project was to have the new sport field lighting ready for the winter season of 2025 or the winter season of 2026. So Grant had some conversations with waimakariri United around what the intent was, and as a result, this report is seeking approval to proceed with the implementation now. The report that sits in front of you is actually slightly incorrect. It's seeking to bring the budget forward. There is actually a revised report that went through to management team after that had been signed off, and I see it hasn't made the agenda. So I've forwarded those updated recommendations on to Kay. But essentially the project is, so recommendation B, the revised one, was approved staff recommendation of funding this project through the renewals fund as depreciation has been collected on the asset. So that will result in no rate impact. Then recommendation C was notes a capital budget of 132,860 within the PJ code will become a savings. So I don't know, Grant, if you've got anything to add to the budget side of things, but there is a change there.
So those updated recommendations have been emailed through to Kay. I don't know if the councillors want to view those as they are or should be within the report now prior to any decision.
Sorry, what was that, Grant?
So the updated recommendations have been emailed through, but do you want me to email that through to the councillors for them to have a look at?
We got those? We haven't got the drafts, so.
I just emailed them probably 5 to 10 minutes ago.
Okay, well, perhaps we could just have a brief adjournment while the sort for us, and perhaps we could get those printed so they can be tabled. So we just maybe do that so we can consider those before we ask any questions. So say 10 minutes, so back at 25 to. Thank you. We stand in adjournment for that time. Thank you. Okay. Do you need anything?
So the lights will install between 15. I know man talk originally. It's a good place in the 20.
So Grant, Kirsten's just going to deal with the Recreation Community Board report first. So that's item 7.4. Welcome, Kirsten.
Good morning, everybody, and apologies from the Chair, Jim Gerard, who's unable to be here today. There's not much to say, and I will take the report as read. There's just a couple of comments that Jim asked me to make on behalf of the board, and that would be that one of the biggest issues that we've faced this year has been the new quarry and landfill development up at Okuku, which obviously has raised a lot of attention around the town. We have met with the group several times and we prepared our own submission. We also wanted to thank the council very much for the support that they've given us on the legal side of matters there, and we really do appreciate the support there. So if there's any questions on the report, I'm happy to take them.
Thank you, Kirsten. I'd like to acknowledge on behalf of the council our appreciation the way in which we work together, and especially know that there is a very big workload there in the preparation of submissions, and council did acknowledge that in its draft budget last week, and we've retained a provision there to provide support, which we would welcome the board's view on, and there'll be a policy drafted on that. Just note that there is a lot in that space to do. We do note that it's important to have that support, but just appreciate the advocacy of the board. I think they do a superb job for our district, so if you could pass that back to your board. We appreciate your role you play too, so thank you. Any questions? Right, so if we come to the recommendation, is A and B, is someone prepared to move? Moved Councillor Williams, seconded Councillor Fulton. Councillor Williams, do you wish to speak?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fulton? Any further speakers? I'll put the recommendation. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, declare that carried. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right. Are we good to go now, Kieran? Thank you. Kieran and Grant. We've got the revised recommendations here. I understand it's just a slight matter of timing with respect to the getting it to governance, so it's where the delay was. So thanks for getting that revised, which everyone's had a chance to have a look at now. Do you wish to add any comments? Further comments? No. Okay, any questions or colleagues? Councillor Williams.
Yeah, just, I know in your proposal that you've got 3 persons or businesses who have tendered on this already. Are 2 of those people, 2 of the major suppliers that actually are ratepayers in waimakariri that do this type of work?
Oh, I think it was Mark Herring Lighting, so they've done a lot of work for us in the district. Magnatech, which is a UK firm, but they've got basically I think it's a one-man band operating out of Woodend, and Tech Life, which I'm not quite sure where the head office is based, but they're Christchurch based.
So why would we not consider 2 of the major suppliers and proposal people that are in there? And none of those ones are the major ones in waimakariri.
Sorry, major suppliers of sport field lighting?
Lighting and design. I'll refer to Redpass Limited and Redcliffe Electrical.
I don't believe our specialist sports field designers. This is more than just supplying lights. We're after a lighting design for semi-professional sport field play.
I understand they do lighting design.
Well, there's a procurement process that's undertaken, so that's what it's crossing into an area. Councillor Williams, it's the staff will determine through the procurement process that we've already agreed to.
That's what I'm talking about, the procurement process, make sure we get the best price for our ratepayers.
I understand that. Right, any other questions? Oh, Councillor Fulton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. as Grant, as you know, the work that's been in former life, the Mandeville Sports Centre rugby lights only 3 or 4 years ago, received some assistance from council. So I'm familiar with the whole process of, this. My question is, it appears to me that we had 10 years of sort of good life out of these lights, and now we've had water ingress and failures or something. So one, why such a short shelf life? Mandeville lights for 20 years, built 2002, and also water ingress. Why was that not accounted for and even depreciated for, and in our budgets we could see this happening progressively?
I might have to get some of the information for you just around the actual condition of the lights with any kind of flood or water ingress that's happened.
But the 10 years, 10 years, would you consider that short? Would any of your advisors consider that a short period of time?
With LEDs, I would consider that to be a short time frame. With some of the prior technology that we've had, we have seen failures like that, certainly within the 10 years. And in fact, that's why we're trying to move to different technologies with lights, because we do tend to get a longer life out of them. The problem is with the working at heights, there has to be a certain amount of them that go out before it's actually economical to go out and fix them. But certainly 10 years, I would say, is a relatively short period of time. But for LEDs, I would be expecting that we wouldn't be replacing any within that time frame, and they generally last as long as each other. So long as the casings and everything like that work, then they should be okay.
So these are also bulbs, so that just for clarity, they were the slow warm-up ones and
Yeah. So sorry, they weren't the ones that are there now aren't the LEDs, so they were the older technology. So we do see failures with those within a decade, definitely.
Thank you. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Kieran, and thank you, Grant. Just so as to understand the benefit of installing these new lights, what's the size of the Waimakariri United Club, and how many nights the actual lights are being used? And actually, is there an expected decrease in costs for power usage by changing to LED? And do we recover any of the costs that associated with changing the lights and also the power? Is it recovered from the club in any way? Thank you.
So the club, we're not anticipating are going to be paying towards the usage of the light field itself. There is an expectation that they do pay a booking fee for the artificial turf itself. In terms of use, if we allowed them to leave the lights on all night, they would probably fill it with teams. There's quite a lot of growth going on within the football club at present, especially within the seniors. They're managing to retain quite a few of those players that would otherwise have gone into town. So there's quite a good system of keeping some of those local players from the youth into the senior teams. A lot of that's got to do with Deb Ford, who's actually working there now as the Sports Administrator of the Year at the recent Sports Awards as well. So no, they've actually got some really good plans around player retention and player growth. So the usage side of them, we're very, very confident of with Waimak United, but the cost recovery, there will be some savings from switching to LED just purely because it takes less time to warm them up and also they consume less power. I don't know if we have a payback period for this. But certainly the usage of them we're very confident with. At the present time though, we're not on charging fees for the usage to the club.
And in terms of the lights being on, do you have an understanding as to how many nights the club is training or actually playing on these fields at night?
We could definitely get the game schedule shared with the councils, and I think that's a really good idea, Brent. In terms of the training, they're training most nights down there. They have both male and female teams, and they have them at quite high grade, so they have to provide them with a specific training opportunity each week. They could normally last around about 1.5 to 2 hours long for each of those senior high performance teams. And then you've got all of your other teams as well to train, so they probably get the lights on from around about 4:30, 5 o'clock during the winter, and that could go up to around about 9 o'clock 4, if not 5 nights a week.
Wonderful, thanks for that.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? So we've got I'm just being clear at some of the recommendations are those contained in the updated report that was circulated. So someone prepared to move? Moved by Councillor Ward, seconded by Councillor Bryan. Do you wish to speak, Councillor?
Just to say that this is really important that this happens before the winter time, and while the conditions on the ground are really favourable, and it's really, really important also for safety, and we really need to support the wellbeing and fitness of our people and give them the best opportunity to enjoy their sports and to feel good about them belonging to as opposed to going into town where there may be more better facilities. So I think there's no rate impact, so this is really just a common sense decision to be made. So thank you very much for your work.
Ms. Bryan?
Football's a growth sport right across the world, no different here in New Zealand, obviously. We're struggling a little bit with capacity at the moment. Green Space are working hard to make sure that we can cater for, in particular, football. Netball's another one that's going through a growth spurt at the moment. Rugby in the junior grades is not going well. Teenage grades is not going so well, but to be converting to LED is an excellent option for the reasons that have been outlined. So I fully support this procedure.
Thank you. Further speakers? Councillor Williams?
Yes, I will be supporting this solely for the cost of saving. Myself being an electrician, I realise the LEDs have got a substantial savings in cost long term. I am a wee bit disappointed also because I'm an electrician of water egress into lights that are only 10 years old. They're designed for a life of, a lot of sporting fields have got these for 30, 35 years, these sodium ones, and they shouldn't have a problem. I think the bulbs are still quite available and the local suppliers. But the worst thing is I'm very disappointed we're not actually looking and using some of their local ratepayer suppliers and making sure we get the best pricing available. They may not be the cheapest, which is fine, but they should have the option, in my books, of being able to compete with some out-of-town outfits for this. But on a pure electrical side, the LEDs are far more economical and power usage. But thank you.
Just to that, to start, are there contract suppliers out here with that we know that have the expertise to undertake this work? And if there are, around the tender process, is that being considered, or their ability for some of those to provide the wholesaling aspect through perhaps a main supplier?
I'm certainly not aware of the wholesale suppliers such as Redpass or Lens or anyone like that that would do sport field lighting. So potentially in terms of, it's been missed in our research. But we've certainly done some research in terms of specialist sports field lighting designers and suppliers. So we're certainly trying to make sure we've achieved the required standards with this lighting project.
Thank you. Councillor Mealings, then I see Councillor Cairns and Fulton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am really pleased to see that we're replacing obsolete mercury vapor lamps with LEDs. They're better for the environment and they are easier on the pocket significantly, and that's a better all-around result. It is a bit disappointing that these fittings haven't lasted the distance, but then again, I guess they've given us an opportunity to put something better there. I am very pleased with your change in recommendation because the original ones I wasn't that keen on. But the fact that you have realised that this is able to be covered by the renewables budgets, given that it's already been depreciated, so the funds have been put aside for this. Excellent, and even better than that now, it takes $132,860 off of our books and savings because they've already been paid for, so that there is no ratepayer impact. I like that a lot. Thank you, and I think that's enough said for me. Oh, and did I not hear you say when asked about the people that, the firms that had tendered for this, that 2 out of the 3 of them were local? Would end and
I'm not 100% sure where Mark Hearing Lighting is based. They may be Christchurch as well, but they have done a lot of work for us.
so thank you.
Councillor Keynes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm fully in support of replacing this lighting. The Waimakariri United is a growing club, and they are working very, very hard to grow the club and growing the sport of football. And yeah, it's wonderful to see that we're replacing the lighting. Thanks for the report.
Can you just clarity, was this an open tender process?
No, I was invited, but we went through the procurement plan process approved by the procurement PCG.
Thank you. Councillor Fulton.
Thank you, Spear. I've actually got really quite a terms of disappointment here, and I'm pretty vested in this sort of process in the past. I think it's great that we're replacing our LED. It's disappointing that we've got the need to do it so quickly. It's disappointing that we've got so, I don't know whether it's a lack of maintenance or a lack of care. I wouldn't like to see that happen again. We've got to be a lot sharper on this because we can't be coming back in 10 years' time and seeing a replacement. So we've got to build that into a works program. I acknowledge that the football is a growing sport, hugely fast growing sport. We need to support local business, but it's just there's aspects of it here that really sort of almost sort of trouble me. It's a saving grace that we don't have a rating impact. Otherwise, I don't think I could support it. And I'll just say, as far as the tendering process goes, I'm not going to comment on individuals, but I have been through this process myself and spent up to 5 years working to a process of getting the right suppliers for the job, whoever they came from, and then at the very last minute you get people coming in and saying, I've got a mate over there, lives in Ringira or someone in Woody, he can do the job, he's an electrician, let's just do it right, do it professionally, and actually just keep any potential conflicts out of it. I'm not saying there are conflicts here, but let's just keep it nice and on the level, because it needs to be done by specialists and the right people, so I'm confident that you can carry out that process. Thank you. I'll be supporting you.
Just on that, and to the points that come to you, Councillor Williams made around it, and what Councillor Fulton said around the quality aspects and water coming in, what work is being done on this to ensure that it doesn't happen again? So as we undertake this, we're not likely to experience the same, and grant further to our broader asset, our inspections being undertaken to ensure that they are, we're not susceptible to the same. Now that we're aware of it, what work's being done to ensure that our asset is protected so we don't have to go through replacements?
From the project perspective, this falls into part of the evaluation. So we are evaluating the warranty periods and the manufacturing standards of the product that's proposed. Once the new lights are installed and handed over to Green Space, then they may or may not have increased maintenance cycles. But yeah, from the tendering perspective, it's part of the evaluation process.
Well, I think what I'd like to see come back around and across here is a report on this, on other. We don't want to see this continue again. So if a report could come back, it just undertakes where the assessments at on these assets so that we are being responsible stewards. It's not saying our staff are, but I think from the questions and points that are raised, I think that's a point that I think we would like some comfort on, so if that could come back very just in due course, would be appreciated. All right. Keep your
Your last questions has just really taken the fire out of where I was going to head. Because, I mean, I haven't seen, read, heard any evidence where these past lights were in warranty, whether they're not, where they came from, all of those things. My guess is that all that research was done beforehand, 10 years ago, if you like. No doubt about that. I don't know about you guys, but I've bought many products that 3 months out of warranty, you're replacing the damn things. So what you've asked for, Mr. Mayor, is probably just to make sure that our process is correct around that is well worthwhile, but I have no doubt in my mind that it will have been carried out. We may indeed replace these lights, and there is no guarantee after the guarantee that they will be okay. That goes with any product that you buy, no matter where it is. So we want to make sure that we get the best that we can for what we can, but the reality is that we are a consumer like everybody else. And there are products out there that work and some that don't. Be the first off the block, and you're trialling a product, you can expect it either way. If it's a product that's out there and we're getting 10 years and someone else is getting 30, I'd like to know what the difference is. So what you've asked for, I think, Mr. Mayor, is really well worthwhile. But I think, I personally think that there will be some discrepancies in any product you buy, and guarantees are guarantees. Once it's out, who knows what's going to happen anywhere.
I'm going to support this. Like others, of course, we don't want to be undertaking renewals sooner than we would have ideally liked, but it is what it is, and we need to remedy this. Coming back and advising that where we're at will just give a degree of satisfaction. I could just sense that from the questions here, and I would appreciate myself just having an appreciation of where that's at. Around procurement, we're always looking at that process, better ways to do that. I personally have always favoured trying, where possible, local is certainly where ideally would like to be, but recognising that also that we've got to make sure that we're getting the best proposal that looks after the asset here in our community. Like Councillor Fulton and I have been at many sport meetings over the years where someone knows a mate that knows somebody that has undertaken great works, and sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. In our sport groups and other, are always trying to make sure that we're getting the best, ultimately the best deal. These aren't inexpensive items to put in, but there is a place in the work program and starts the Chief Executive around procurement and looking at the tender process, and that would be an opportunity for us to have a discussion around that and perhaps give the council's view on how that may be tweaked or adjusted if there's a view to do so. That's the point where you would do that. But thank you for bringing it forward. And I know that Kendall Park is well used, and they certainly need this and a reliable source for lighting, so that it means that it can be used in the hours of which operation allows. So I'm supportive of this. Reluctant to a degree is what was said before, but it is what it is. We need to move forward with it. Any further speakers? Councillor Ward, reply. I'll put the recommendation. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, declare that carried. Thank you very much. All right, so we have a series of reports from the board chairs, and are we aware of any reports?
The board chairs were told to come at 10:30.
Okay, well, we might just delay that then. Health, safety and wellbeing, number 8. Mr. Millwood, you report.
This is just the
monthly report for health and safety. There's a schedule there at the back that itemises each of the incidents. And I'll just take the report as being read.
Thank you. Any questions? Someone would be to move the report. Move the Deputy Mayor, seconded. Councillor Fulton, do you wish to speak?
No.
Mayor, Councillor Fulton?
No, thanks.
Any further speakers? Don't think you have anything to respond to, Deputy Mayor, so I'll put that. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, declare that carried. We're at items, so the committee minutes for information of audit and risk 9.1, 9.2, so we to move that. Councillor Goldsworthy, seconded. Councillor Mealings. Put that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, declare that carried. Community board minutes for information, so we have 10.1 to 10.4. So we to move that. Councillor Bryan, seconded. Councillor Redmond. I'm sure you were. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, declare that carried. My diary, which is from 1st of December through to 25th of January. So we to move that. Deputy Mayor moving, second. Councillor Ward. Any questions? Anyone wish to speak? I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, declare that carried. We come to council portfolio updates. Under EV relationships at this point, don't have any update here apart from that Chief Executive myself second meeting with our local Reno for just an update on where they're at and update on a few of our processes, and also our desire to continue to work together, and which we are, but just to get an update from them around some of the developments that they've got going on, and there is quite a lot in that space, so I'd quite like to hear from them directly where that's at, and we can brief the council. Any questions? Okay, Greater Christchurch Partnership update. We had our last meeting in December, and really there is a review going on around the functions of the partnership, just to ensure that we are fit for purpose. The independent chair role finished at that meeting, and we are yet to resolve what that and how that will be structured going forward. But just looking at obviously savings and efficiencies of how we can be a bit nimbler in that space. Is the work program still relevant with all the projects that go on, the alignment with Mayoral Forum and the government's agenda, also ensuring that that is where it needs to be. So we will keep you briefed on that, and we'll bring back hopefully, probably won't be our next meeting, but perhaps a subsequent round where that's sitting. I personally think there's really always a great opportunity to bring our councils together across our respective boundaries, and that networking opportunity is always important. I know that colleagues that attend that certainly value that as we talk together across boundaries, and we have good relationships with councils, so and continue to maintain those. So that's one of the benefits of the partnership, is keeping everyone together, and also a shared understanding of the things that we need and can work on together. Nikki or Neville, if you have anything you need. Any questions? Government reforms, well, there are many, and water, RM reform, you name it, and we've got a workshop briefing today on RMA related matters, but as we know, there's a constant number of submissions in our policy and strategy unit to keep very busy in that space, and I think we're really lucky with the expertise that they bring to us in helping us draft submissions and seek out our direction on those as well. So it's a busy space. Any questions? Okay, Canterbury Water Management Strategy, Councillor Fulton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Met yesterday, as we did for council meetings on the schedule. It's notable that we're now in the wind-up phase for category water management strategy zone committees, management committees, have been recently referred to, I think. We've probably got at most 3 meetings to go before the end of this financial year. One of those might be a field visit, might have a workshop, and then culminate in hopefully a sort of a final meeting where we can invite and thank some of the people who have been on those zone committee meetings, who have attended for so long, who have done so much good work. I think the general consensus was, and it's hard to come by consensus when you end up backslapping yourself, but there's been a lot of good work done over a long period of time. The zone committees, the waimakariri has been probably particularly functional and sort of maintained its sense of purpose, where some of the other zone committees around Canterbury haven't sort of drifted or lost their purpose. Generally, we did allocate our funds, our action plan funds in the latest round to 14 applicants there. That's the $50,000 was allocated. I think we had just $140,000 worth of sort of application sort of money. We had to sort of make it all fit as we do. So that was quite satisfying to go through that process. And again, there's a lot of good water and biodiversity projects that are receiving much needed funding. I just noted in the report to our zone committee that the Mantle Resurgence as a council here, we signed off the next stage to take it to stage 1 public consultation over the coming weeks and months. Also noted that there are some, in the environmental space, there are some ongoing concerns that I hear a lot about the state of gravel in our rivers and the flood risk that poses, the risk that even to some of our public infrastructure. I've been to a lot of recent community meetings and resident meetings. The one thing I hear all the time about gravel and aggregate build up in our rivers and our inability to deal with it. So I asked the zone committee meeting to please keep that on the agenda. Can we keep it on the agenda into what organisation replaces zone committees, because it's just such a recurring thing. And we had public delegation, public deputations from Waimakariri Irrigation Limited. That was good. They talked about some good work that they're doing in the with biodiversity projects and stream care projects, and it was really nice to hear Brett Welch and the CEOs speak about the transformation that irrigation company's been through over the years. 4 or 5 years ago, there were things in environmental management they were very reluctant to even talk about, but now they've got dedicated in-house staff and environmental team at Waimakariri Irrigation. And I think that speaks to the changes and the attitudes that there's been amongst farmers, perhaps in the irrigation sector. They've realised they've got to come on board and work with the community in irrigation. So hopefully that's a nice positive to finish with.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Evans?
Thank you for your report, Councillor Fulton. I attended the water zone meeting yesterday, which is always an interesting meeting to go to, and I normally learn something. Who will determine whether the water zone committee continues, whether it be in this current form or a different form?
Mayoral forum.
The mayoral forum.
Mayoral forum, if you'd like to answer that, Mr. Mayor.
Unless you
No, nothing really to add. No, it's a mayoral forum. Yeah. So.
Well, do we as a council have any input into that through you, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, you do. And I might add that we have advocated there that one size doesn't fit all. So while some of the other water zone committees may not be working as ideally, this one here does. And so we've certainly taken the view that it shouldn't necessarily be dissolved in that regard. What its form and function will be, now we can are looking at the effectiveness of that. But my understanding is it's it is the mayoral forum that will make that final call and work with Ken on that. That's how they're being advanced in this matter. I know the deputy mayor was in my place at the last meeting, so I was overseas, but it's how I understood that discussion is ensuring and I don't believe final decisions have been made in that space at this present time.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, the assessment around that at the mayoral forum was really quite simple, and it was that some are not working, some are working extremely well, some are just not fit for purpose, and needs a total review of where things are going to go with it, because the mayor's absolutely right. It's not a blanket anymore. It got going, people got their reports, getting to implementation. Some of those things do not fit what those committees are set up to. In fact, their terms of reference don't even fit what it is they need to carry out, some of them. So that'll be a total review to come back to the mayoral forum on what it is that may be required in consultation with the groups themselves, to make sure that they know what they want, because many of them want to change or dissolve themselves.
Just have one observation on that. I think that, and your comments there just remind me, there was quite a sort of concerted effort at last night's meeting to try and retain all the good work that we've done as a zone committee waimakariri. That includes the zipper work, for instance. It seems quite prescriptive what things we can do, what action we can do. So whatever body comes next, waimakariri and the council can continue that work. In fact, we have to continue that work, I think, under regulation. So that was a lot said about that. Let's retain the zipper and not waste it.
We had a really good meeting with Chair Craig and our local councillors for weekend towards the end of last year, and just occurred to me in the busyness of everything that goes on here, plus with COVID and everything else, where meetings and meeting together is a bit more problematic, but we've got out a cycle of regular catch-ups, and so Craig was very keen. We will get that together certainly before end of term, a joint discussion. We need to get back into that framework of regular catching up, because those are matters that we can be discussing together there and around the overall effectiveness. And there are other matters that we've all been involved with around issues of water quality and other things that certain members of our community have strong views on, and the appropriate forums to deal with those is working together with ECAN, as we have done. I know there's been processes in place, and some may have views around the effectiveness of that, but there was a willingness with the new chair and direction that certainly meeting with those individuals to hear particular perspectives was certainly would be valued, and so that's being sought presently, as I understand. But around how we work together with ECAN, it's a very important body, and we need to make sure that we have a good partnership there. I'm not saying we don't, because we do, and we do work really well in that space, but how we can be more effective and ensure that council to council there is that relationship with those members, I think is important. Anything else for Councillor Fulton? Any other questions? Climate change and sustainability, Councillor Meanings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can't recall if since the last formal meeting we've talked about this. So since my last portfolio report, the last formal council meeting in December, the launch of the Canterbury Climate Partnership Plan has taken place, which formalized the partnership of the 10 Canterbury councils working together to share information, expertise, and resources on further work done in the climate space, which that is a huge milestone to be celebrated. So it's really great to get that done and have that off the blocks. So it's a great way to start the new year. Ian, closer to home, BNC, Enterprise North Canterbury, is hosting a Climate Basics for Business course, which is run through the Sustainable Business Network, subsidized by the council through the Bedrock Funding Program, which I might remind you is actually government funding and therefore has no rating impact. The course runs from 19th of March to 18th of June 2025 and is aimed at helping local businesses develop a solid plan for successfully reducing emissions. So that's going to help our local businesses actually get their heads wrapped around that. There's quite a lot of interest there, so I think that'll be a good uptake. Scoping for the planned climate risk assessment for the rest of council assets. So that's green space, property, solid waste, roading, that's now underway. That's following on from our Three Waters climate risk assessment, which was done by Walls Infrastructure back in 2022. So this work is being led by Veronica and Melanie Yu and the resilience team, and will be delivered in-house by the new resilience infrastructure team by December this year. That too is a better off funding project and will help inform the planned climate resilience strategy. We now have our Resilience Explorer portal up and running, which still needs some fine tuning to be completed, but that has that's been informed by the latest NEO-data and provides a visual picture of climate risk to the district under different climate scenarios and different time periods. So pushing out, 100 years or 5 years, what have you, under different scenarios. That's going to be a really important tool for us to be able to do asset management plans and whatnot, and also just how to deal with things in emergencies. And anyway, that more will come to that on that later, but it's going to be a really great tool for us to have here. Progress with the 2020 organizational sustainability strategy actions is now being reviewed, and that strategy is going to be refreshed as a plan in the second half of the year. And staff are in the process of procuring a refresh of our greenhouse gas footprint, which is also funded by the raw funding, because the last time we did that was 2017, 2018. So it's due for a refresh, and it will be used to help inform organizational emissions reporting and prioritize actions in the aforementioned organizational sustainability. So there's lots of work happening in the background, so the workers are busy working, but I don't have a complete thing to do right now today. But that's a good update on what everyone's up to. Questions?
Questions of council meetings? Questions of council meetings? Councillor Fulton?
You raised a point, Councillor Miller, that I think you might have talked about some of your sort of field work that's done, or that sort of makes me think. Do your council organisations you're involved with, do they help subsidise sort of field visits and workshops and sort of education extension out in the field, like they've been raised in your report? But this came up in the context of our zone committee and last night as to getting people out there, making in up and down the rivers, having field visits. Is there any way we can support that? Because some of these workshops and conferences and field days, they're very expensive. They can be hundreds of dollars a day.
I think that's probably more a question for council and staff. Yeah. However, what I was talking about here is actually partnering with a sustainable business network to help ENC deliver a course for local businesses, rather than doing field work. But that may very well, whenever they revamp the sustainability strategies and that going forward, which of course will still have to come through council at that time, that may very well be something that gets discussed at that time. But when we first started with our sustainability strategy, it was stage one was just for our campus, if you will, and stage two was for the broader council organizations, our CCOs and whatnot. And then after that was for the community. And so as we're looking at all of that work right now, it's something that I'm sure that they're thinking about, but that's all work to come. So at this point, I think the answer would be no, unless you guys know different. But certainly food for thought.
Pick up that discussion with you. Yeah.
Any further questions? Thank you, council members. International relationships.
I have nothing on international relationships. Our meeting will be in fact, I think it's March, the first one, so there's nothing on international relationships at the moment. And then on the property portfolio, just to, both Ahoka Road properties have been confirmed, and I believe by the end of the month will be possession will be taken of those. So they're gone, and we have a meeting just coming up, so there's nothing further to report. As you can imagine, that portfolio is reasonably quiet over the Christmas time. So we're meeting next week after, I think, week after next.
Thank you. Any questions for Director Mayor on either of those portfolios? No? All right. Looks like Shay is here from the Woodland Second Board, so we might take that item now. Thank you, John. So Shay, if you're ready, if you want to come forward. Thank you. I understand I wasn't aware that we were advised to come at 10:30, so we've already had Kirsten, Deputy Chair of the Board for Rangireshi, presented a little earlier because we were waiting on another item. So thank you for being present, and we've got your report there. Welcome you to invite you to make any comments if you wish.
Thank you. I'll take the report as read. So 2024, the year that was, one of the big things was opening the accessible viewing platforms at Pegasus and Waikoki beaches. This received extremely positive feedback from the community and was shared widely around social media, and not just around the district, it went really wide. So there has been quite a lot of visitors to the district coming to see the viewing platforms. Big thanks to staff member Mike Swank for guiding this project from conception through to design and completion. The feedback received really does speak for itself, and seeing how people are using the platforms is just incredible. Straight after the opening of the Waikoki Beach one, there was a picture shared on social media of a family took their 96-year-old grandfather to have morning tea on the platform. And we're talking, this is winter time. So they're sitting there, they've got the table out, they've got the thermoses, they've got the crockery, they've got the baking, everything, and they're sitting there enjoying morning tea, sitting on the platform. I mean, he hadn't been able to get to the beach for a number of years, so for him to be able to get to the platform and actually see the beach, see the sea, hear it, feel it, smell it was incredible. And you know, the feedback from that family was just amazing. We also had a great new neighbourhood playground and public toilets on Woodlands Estate opened. This is on Parsonage Road in Wood End. So the locals are really enjoying that new play space. I believe it's actually the first table tennis table in the district. So it really complements the other playgrounds well, giving different play options, which is what it's all about really. So the funding to cover the extended dates for paid surf life-saving patrols. Well, it hasn't been the best summer season for swimming, I'll admit that one, but it is important. With the growth of the district, and particularly in our area, the popularity of the beaches has grown. And Waikoki Beach does have its limitations in terms of infrastructure, in terms of parking, the toilets, which I have talked about a number of times, things like that. So to extend the dates for the paid patrols at Pegasus and Wood End beaches just taking in more in January has been a definite need. We've looked at ways to make the dollar go a wee bit further. And so one example is the Wood End Town Centre toilets. The board had suggested looking for opportunities to apply for funding for them, and one popped up. So with very short notice, staff completed the application. This was supported by ENC and ourselves, and the co-funding from the Tourism Infrastructure Fund was successful, which enabled the early renewal of the existing toilet block, which struggled to meet levels of service. The toilets came in under budget. Yay. And that allowed for some landscaping and the installation of a picnic table nearby. So this is ideally situated for cyclists using the Rangiora Wood End path and travellers needing the facilities, and also those stopping to buy some food and then wanting a place to sit and eat. Another example is Bob Robertson Drive in Ravenswood. It's a very long road with the commercial area right at one end of it. And we saw a need for some seating along there to allow people walking to stop for a rest. Our landscaping budget would only stretch to 2 seats. But a member suggested approaching Ravenswood developments, and they funded a further 2 seats, which means that they're spread out along the length of the drive. And we also, fingers crossed, raised the thought of when the development along the Taranaki stream is finished, we'll need some seats along there as well. So fingers crossed. So other than that, just the Wood End bypass was of course a big thing for the year, which will have an impact on our area going forward. As usual, the devil is in the detail, and we wait to see. But thanks to council and staff for the advocacy along the Wood End bypass. But those were sort of the highlights. I think we've worked well together as a board. We have generally a really good relationship with staff, which serves us well. And I certainly would like to thank our 2 appointed councillors, Councillor Redmond and Councillor Cairns, for their visibility in the in our community. They really are part of the community, and they understand the issues and the opportunities, things like that. So it has been wonderful. So thank you, and I'm here for questions.
Thanks, Shona, and I'd just firstly start by saying our thanks to you for what you do. You, I think, do a superb job as chair of the board. Certainly a very big workload. I know how much effort that you personally put into all the submissions and other works. The other is also chairing the new Pegasus Community Centre, which is an exciting project and one that we had a meeting yesterday, and following the community feedback, it's starting to shape really well, which we'll brief the council on in due course. But just want to acknowledge your leadership. I think you and the board do a great job there. So thank you very much for all that you do. Questions of colleagues? Right, so we have we've got a recommendation, which is there. So for you to move, Councillor Redmond, seconded by Councillor Ward. Councillor Redmond.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. A very good report, Shona, and I'd like to endorse the Mayor's comments. I think you lead the board extremely well, and as a chairperson, you've been pretty hard to beat. So thank you very much for the report, and thank you also for your comments about myself and Councillor Cairns. I think we both don't live in the Pegasus area, but you'd probably never know that. So thank you very much for the report.
Thank you. Councillor Ward.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate a big thank you to you, Shona, and your team for looking after Pegasus Wood End area, Sefton area very, very well. You know, your passion is out there, and you do an amazing job, so big thank you from us.
Thank you. Councillor Cairns.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm going to reiterate what's already been said, but effectively, Shona, you do a wonderful job. You are passionate about this particular area, and it certainly shows in everything that you do. Congratulations for the work that you do, and eventually we will get that footpath to connect Wood End to Ravenswood. Thank you, Shona. Well done, and the team.
Thank you, and I agree. You hopefully will. If NZTA doesn't do it, then that's a matter for us to consider, and that's what we're pushing for definitely at the moment, to be included as part of the bypass. Right, any further comments? Right, apply if you wish, Councillor Redmond. Put that, all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, declare it carried. Thanks, Shona. All right, we've got Sarah here too from Oxford. I hope that. So Sarah, if you want to come forward. Thank you very much. Just when you're ready. It's always good to see you, and welcome to our meeting.
Thank you very much. Right, do you want me to just read through my report or?
It's up to you. We've read it, but if you just want to summarise any of the points that you wanted to particularly highlight, I'll be happy to read the points. But I know you're a very busy board, so you might want to let us know some of those key things you're involved with. This is your time.
Thank you. All right, so the part of my report at the very beginning I think is really important, especially after attending the community boards conference this year, and not acknowledging the relationship that our community boards have with the council and staff is seemingly quite unique across the country. I think that it bodes well for all of our districts for that relationship to be so strong and work together so well. There seems to be a lot of dysfunctioning councils in other areas, and I think we're extremely lucky with being able to use each other and use each other's resource and each other's knowledge of different areas to make things better for the people of our district. The staff that we work with, everyone is always so welcoming and so easy to deal with. Nothing seems to be a problem. So I really would like to reiterate that first paragraph and thank everybody for that, and hope that relationship continues to remain strong going forward. As you'll know, as a board, we have been involved in quite a few legal processes. So we have got our Woodstock Quarries Limited. They were declined by the commissioners to have their landfill established up in Oxford. There seemed to be quite a lot of information making that. They've since obviously appealed that, taken it to the Environment Court. So currently we are sitting in the position of waiting for more information. So the Environment Court obviously will hear the case. They are looking to get more information from the applicant, and then they will decide, and other parties will decide whether they would like to enter into mediation. Currently, nobody wants to enter into mediation because everyone feels that there is no information, no more new relevant information that has been given. So we have to wait and give the applicant a chance to get some of that and bring it back. That would be then revisited, and if it is still felt that mediation isn't the right way to go, then it will go through to a hearing. So the court, I believe, has sort of penciled in both options as being a thing. So we should hear more on that as time moves on. We believe that this is a really important one for our district because it's setting a precedence. There are a lot of people waiting in the wings, ready to do the same thing, as Raniera have also found out. So it's potentially a historical, in the future, could leave some people with some messes to clean up when things like this are put into private ownership and then given to councils. The other large project they will be working on is the Yohoku development, and there's obviously, as you'll all be aware, a very large majority of our district that are against that project going ahead, all for very sound reasoning. One of the biggest things is the resourcing of it, and is that a wise amount of money and resourcing to be putting into a development in that particular location. So that is something that we will continue to work on behalf of our community for, and that obviously is lying in 3 different fields at the moment, so we will have to wait and see. It looks like the fast track isn't necessarily going to just be a run through fast track to the end. It looks like it has been looked at and has had some questions put towards it, so we'll see where that goes. Then obviously they've got the district plan, proposed district plan avenue, and then of course there's still the environment court to go through, so it'll be interesting to see which one of those avenues, where they go, and what we will have to be doing to help advocate for our community on that behalf, on those behalf. There is a bit of a difference between the Oxford scenario 2 and the Ahoka scenario. Ahoka have got a fantastic residents association who have got a lot of resources and are really good at battling for themselves too. Oxford don't so much and are probably more heavily reliant upon our board and us advocating for them. Flooding, obviously, we are in that part of the district where that is a huge issue for us and has been and will always be. We have worked on a few wee local projects. Mark Brown and Tim Fulton led a charge on the Washington Way project, which the staff came along. They listened to the residents. It went through a really great process that everyone was listened to, solutions found, and then we put actions into place, and that is hopefully will resolve some of the flooding issues that those residents had in there. That is just a small part of what we've got going on in terms of that, though. The biggest thing that we would like to push is we need to do solutions that are well thought out, well designed, and not rush into anything. There's parts of our area that need immediate action, and there are projects and thoughts that can get put into place immediately and help some of those people that are getting extreme flooding in their areas. It's not going to solve the problem. We need a longer term solution, but that longer term solution is going to be a huge investment on our council. And there's two factors that I'd like to talk to with that. One is we need to be really careful about where we put development, because it doesn't matter if water is coming out and going over the land. That's fine. That's a completely natural process and is something that you'll see everywhere in this district. The problem is when we start building houses in those areas. So unless there aren't humans there is no hazard, there is no impact. So in our district planning and in our subdivision areas, we need to be really careful about where we're putting these places, because developers at the end of the day, they want a cost-effective way of developing, and we as a ratepayer end up with a shortfall afterwards if it doesn't work, which we've seen in Mandeville. The other part of this is we believe that research is really important. There is such a complex system, the undercurrent and the resurgence channels, which you've all heard about. It's not going to be simple. And the actual hydrology behind it needs to be fully understood before anything can be engineered and put in place. Personally, I think that we've got some fantastic engineers working for our council, but a hydrologist's point of view would be really great to have alongside that. Another random thought I had in that area was perhaps look at the universities and see if anybody wants to do a research project in that area. I'm not sure the logistics of that or how that gets funded, whether that needs to be partially by council, but that would be a really good opportunity to get a really good sound understanding about what is actually happening with our water. Because we know we've got an issue, we know it needs fixed, but let's hold back and let's get the knowledge 100% right first before we go investing huge money into a project. Water quality, I guess, comes alongside this for us as well. We've got a lot of private well owners in our ward, and we've got a lot of shallow wells in our ward. We've done a lot of damage in the past through land use, and farmers are really hearing that and are really doing their best to try and change practices. But unfortunately, damage has already been done, and we will have the effects of that. Whether change happens tomorrow or not, we've still got a historical damage that's been done already and will continue to contaminate our water. So I think there's a lot more education that needs to happen for our private well owners. I know myself, we've got a private well. Luckily, I know a little bit about water and I know a little bit about what we need to do. But if I didn't, I wouldn't know anything. I know that there is a brochure that you get, I'm pretty sure, when you purchase your house, and there is one available on the website. But if you don't know about that, then you don't access that. So I think as a board, we are very mindful of that and would like to start being a lot more proactive about informing those landowners about what they need to be doing. I think it needs to be a lot more careful in consenting processes too, when new developments are done, as to how deep wells should be. It may be that that water is potable right now, but are we looking to the future? Because otherwise those landowners are going to be stuck with a pretty hefty bill trying to find potable water in the future. Also mindful that nitrates are important, but they're not the be all and end all. They are important, but there is a whole range of contaminants that need to be tested for. There seems to be quite a vigilance on nitrates at the moment, but we need to make sure that we're looking at all of the variety of contaminants and things that can affect our water. For example, our water isn't too bad with nitrates. Our biggest problem is pH. So that's a really important one to have right too. Wolf's Road Suspension Bridge, another project that Tim has got a great handle on, and it's such a cool project. This little overgrown bridge that we've had sitting there in our community has got lots of history. It's a cool wee sort of historical feature, and it's going to be great to have that recognised and to have that as part of the project. So Tim has got a great, passionate group of people working alongside as well, and we as a board support that, and it'll be great to see what ends up happening with that in the future. Alongside that is the rail signages, something that Mark also and Tim have been working on, along with some Bernard, is it? Bernard, yeah. Capturing that history. There is so much history in our ward that is overgrown and undercover. There's the railway, the tram line, which I don't think ended up getting put in, but the railway system was so important in our ward in the past, and has sort of ended up being part of farms and getting overgrown, and that history is leaving, especially when our residents get older and their knowledge passes away. So it's really great that we're getting just little snippets of that and popping them in our ward. We've always sort of spoken about how fantastic it would be to have a rail trail in our ward, in our district, and have that as a tourist attraction as well, because we have got a great history there, and there is really wide berms that have got great railway prep underneath that are right there ready to go. So that would be a really, really cool project in a pipe dream. Pearson's Park Pump Track in Oxford's another really great one that looks like it's going to get some momentum and go ahead, inspired just by a group of locals getting it out there and getting some dirt and putting some humps up, and then the council contractors coming along and getting rid of them, and then them coming back and putting them back up again. So a kind of a problem's turned into a solution with a couple of key people in that community. Seeing it as an issue, and it's going like, okay, let's find a solution to this. Long-awaited dog exercise area in Oxford. I think that could possibly be more than 10 years in the making. I believe that it's gone out to tender and should be getting implemented very soon. So that would be great. The Oaks Reserve alongside that is looking so much better. We had, there was a lot of junk in there, a lot of cleanups occurred. Green Space have done a great job of getting in there, working alongside the board and making it a really beautiful space again. Once again, another historical site with the oaks. Those oaks also relate to the other Oaks Reserve in West Theatre, yes, which we have also been working on beautifying. They are probably the biggest things. We've had a few really little cool projects in Ahoka with some seats and putting along the walkway there. That Ahoka Bush area is also another area that Nikki probably would show her passion for. That's a beautiful place. If you haven't gone there and walked through, well worth looking at as well. The community in there do such a great job of keeping that looking absolutely stunning. That is probably me for now. Oh, one last thing. We are always really short on funding for our discretionary grants. We really actively get out in our community and push for groups to come in and take that grant. We are always short of money at the end of it. We don't have the luxury of Kaipoi and Rangiora who've got big businesses that can support their local groups. So you might have, I don't know, Mitre 10 or another local, the New World, or that can fund your local groups. We don't really have that capacity in our board, so we're sort of heavily relied upon for some of that discretionary grant money. So very much appreciated with that. It goes to many great causes. We make sure it's spread across our huge area, and I think we do a good job of making sure that that's evenly done.
Well, Sarah, just thank you for your full report. I think you do a superb job there, and both you and Thomas, especially with the work that you've done in preparation of submissions. I know that all our boards, and yours in particular, put a huge amount in. I don't think people underestimate the amount of time that goes in there, and also the level of request that comes from the community that you're managing as well through that. So just to acknowledge that effort and I think the way in which you make yourself available whenever we're meeting or various things, it's certainly appreciative to have your presence there, your expertise and thoughts that you bring. So thank you for that. The hydrology component that you mentioned, Jared, I know you're there. I would welcome perhaps, Jared, if you and the team could consider that and perhaps come back to us around that and the idea of possibly a university student proposal or some, as you've indicated, and perhaps that's something the board might want to just pick up for your annual plan submission as well. I'm sure you will. But Jared, it would be good if we could just capture that, because I think it's something I'd like to understand a bit more on myself. So I know Councillor Mealings have certainly raised that also before. Just so you're aware, we've put a sum of money in the budget for submissions. We haven't specified what it's for necessarily, apart from advice and perhaps some legal advice. We are going to set a policy with that, or draft a policy which will come to the boards for. We've put a cap on it, Sarah, because it's just starting to get a little out of hand. But noting that you do need some support in behind that. So that when we've spent 300,000 plus for a development that way, there starts to need to be a bit of a ring fencing about what's realistic in terms of ratepayer investment there. The Ahoka drainage, which and drainage related issues, we've just put an extra 50,000 in the budget following our walk through with members of the committee, and we've got a joint process coming up shortly where the boards, both the drainage and the council, will come together, and with Tom as the chair, and I will chair that meeting just for post the bus trip, any feedback, and certainly that, I think that 50,000 from what I picked up there will certainly make a lot of difference about addressing some long-standing issues, certainly in the Ahoka catchment area. Wolf's Road, we were talking at management about a week ago around that, and there is to be a briefing or workshop with councillors before that comes to the report. So when that happens, Chris, can we make sure that Sarah's invited to come along to that, so there's a connection from the board as well, given the interest you've expressed and noting the leadership of Councillor Fulton. But a very proactive board and a very full report, thank you. Questions? Yes, Councillor Fulton.
I promise you I won't even mention that word.
Which one is that one?
Thank you for that, Sarah, and extend that to Thomas as the co-chair in the first half of the term as well. I think it's been a seamless transition. I think it's all about you managed the board. I've been interested in your thoughts on completion of the community board's work plan, and we keep updated on ongoing projects. It seems that some of our smallest jobs take the longest amount of time. Down to some of our jobs have been costed at $3,000, $5,000, and yet 2.5, 3 years later, we still haven't been completed, and yet we certainly have a lot of reports and a lot of resources go into reporting on where they're at, but they're not completed. So, what's your feeling on that? I mean, I can think of the West End Railways heritage sign. Someone said to me in the public after that went up, they said, oh, why we spent whatever amount, I think $3,000, $5,000 in this budget. And I said, actually, that sign went up because of the Oxford Men's Shed. We didn't actually pay anything for that. Took nearly 3 years to complete that job. So, not a criticism, glad it's done. So, yeah, we've got a lot of work planned, haven't we?
We do, and I guess that everything comes down to the red tape and the funding.
Do you believe it's out of kilter? Is there elements out of kilter because we spend a lot of time on it with administration of our projects? And how best do we complete them?
Well, there's nothing like getting community groups involved and getting work done. But and that is probably another avenue to have a look at, is how can we use our community resources and not just rely on council for the smaller projects, because we do have community groups that could go in and do like at Ahoka, where they have the wee group that looks after the domain and just gets things done there. And whether we can do that the same other ways in our district, just to get past that red tape and all the reports and everything, have more community groups and they can have more control over what happens in those areas. Could be a way to get around that.
Perhaps that's a discussion with CE at some stage around the risk and other things that need to be managed and considered in that Councillor Fulton, so perhaps it's a workshop item at some stage.
Yeah, I'm sort of referring to other projects, but we
probably can't resolve that here, but it's good to hear your reflection. There's a good question there, I think, too. Any other questions? I've got a recommendation. You move council meetings. I assume Councillor Fulton will want to second this. Councillor meetings.
Sarah, thank you for your report. And I just want to say you are articulate, engaged, capable. You've been a fantastic chair. You've led a cohesive community board. It's been a joy to work with you. You're doing a great job. You've gone above and beyond the call of duty. We know the demands that have been put on our community board. Sometimes it feels like it's just a never-ending barrage of living in the Wild West. What next? What's going to happen tomorrow? Based on what happened yesterday, it just seems to be never ending. But you've just rolled with the punches. The board has rolled with the punches, and I think you've done a really good job of summarizing the huge and varied workload that our community board has overseen over the last year. It's been a pretty eventful year, And, you know, you put in an awful lot of hours of toil in there. And I just really want to recognize and acknowledge that you and Thomas and the rest of the board, you know, that I don't think people anticipate or really realize all the work that goes in behind the scenes of a community board that is advocating strongly for their community. And right now, I just really want to say thank you. You've done a great job. We're glad to have you at home. And I will see you tomorrow night.
Just on that note too, I think that this term we've had such a great bunch of elected members on our board. We all have got a really good vision, and we all bring different sort of experiences and different knowledge to the table, which means we get quite a good, well-rounded solution at the end. I think that's the other thing I would call us is solution-based. We have a problem and we look for the solution, and everyone helps each other out and is not afraid to put out their hand and do the hard yards. The councillors that we have, Nikki and Tim, are always at everything, and often alongside Councillor Redmond and Councillor Cairns, often in the same area, you know, in areas in our ward as well. So it's good to see you all here too. But yeah, I think that our ward is extremely lucky to have the councillors that we have and the work behind with the community board too. We certainly don't have anyone that is that doesn't put their efforts in, that's for sure. And it's great to have the combination of Nikki and Tim too, because they both are extremely passionate for their areas and bring in some different ideas too, and different strengths. So yeah, just hoping we can continue to work together.
Thanks, Sarah. Tim, did you like anything about this fire endorsement?
Thank you again. You're all about can do. I think you encourage that in the chair's role. We work well together. I do appreciate also that I think you've been touched on the relationship we have with staff. Many a time at 10:30 at night in the Oxford Town Hall car park, we're still doing business, chasing staff at the door when they're desperate to want to get home. So we do appreciate that contact and that availability. So that's excellent, and yeah, look forward to completing the term under your watch.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Please, I do want to see that dog park completed. I don't want him to explain to former Deputy Mayor Halstead and his family that it's still not there. Every time I see them, I get asked for Duke's benefit, which is their dog. So it'll be good to see that complete. It's a long waiting. Thanks again, Sarah. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'll put a recommendation, unless you wish to respond to anything, Councillor Members.
No, I think that's probably enough said.
Okay, put the recommendation. All in favour, please say aye. Contrary, declare it carried. I think that's all the open items. Yes. So well, now just before we adjourn,
we haven't received a copy one. Oh, my understanding that Jackie is stuck in Auckland is my understanding, so
yes,
she won't be here to present it.
Pardon me, I'm sorry about that. So item 7.3, we've got the board chair's report for Kaiapoi. Does any of the Kaiapoi board councillors wish to add anything? Kaiapoi to any board councillors? No. It's a good report, and again, also a very proactive board, and I know with Jackie, there's not many things that I go to that she's not at, and including all the other board members. It's a big work program here. So I do think this term of any, I think, in my view, that relationship between council and our boards is particularly strong, and where we bring boards in together jointly to discuss respective matters that are of importance and just keep that partnership going. I think that's been something that's evolved over years as we have boards, how we work more effectively there, and personally think that we're in a great space in that regard. So moved, Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Goldsworthy, do you wish to add anything?
Yeah, look, just to say that, you know, the board does an extremely good job in Kaiapoi as well, and I agree with your comments earlier. Oddly enough, the thing that I noticed about the Kaiapoi Community Board, that this is in comparison to the last 15 years, this is actually a slowdown, even though there's they're the second biggest amount of reports, which they should do, being the second biggest town. It's actually a slowdown, and after the earthquake, there's a whole heap of stuff that has come to fruition and has now moved on. So finally, I think after 15 years, the Kaiapoi Community Board is back to business as usual, if there is such a thing in local government anymore as business as usual. But it's a welcome sign, and that we are at that is because that it actually frees up members to do the job that they were put there to do. It means that the workload is back to a manageable level, where for many years it has been well over the top, and that board, respective boards, have had huge workloads up until this point, and we're finally, as you can see the numbers in the reports, back to what other boards are doing, and concentrating on the things that they need to be as of the running, and listening to people as to what it is they want to happen around their town. And they put in a tremendous amount of work, and do a good job, as do the other boards. So I'd like to thank the Kaiapoi Community Board and their members for the work in which they carry out, and hopefully, as I say, on a normal basis for ongoing years. I hope we don't have to shake up anything in the coming years to make it any different.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Goldsworthy.
Not much further to add to that, other than to thank the community board and Kaiapoi Te Waiwai along with all the other community boards, and I hope that they enjoy their slight respite and back to business as usual after many years of hard work.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Right, reply if you wish.
I don't think so.
I think it's well articulated point. It's recognised that board has had a huge workload over the last number of years. Did you? So you're reaching.
No, I just thought it's an interesting comment when councillors say back to as usual. As usual is a growth council.
Yes.
You've got to remember that this council deals with growth, and councils in New Zealand don't. Some of them have negative population, and so our boards see a lot more reports around levels of service, growth in the areas, and they have to contend with a lot more than a lot of councils.
I think Sarah made an interesting observation that I hadn't really quite picked up either, was at the local government conference. So I had a number of community boards coming up saying, what's different about your council and what you're doing down there? Because the boards up there, the reflection was definitely that they're not as included or as involved. And in fact, in a lot of instances, we're proposing to do away with boards, and councils not far from us. So, you know, I personally think that where we're at as a council is something we can be proud of. There's always better ways and different ways of doing things, but I see huge value in our boards, and I would never want to see them gone. So that's where I sit. But that comes back to how we've evolved and how we work together over that time. Thank you to all our boards. I'll put the recommendation. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, declare that carried. So, break for morning tea. Firstly, I'll move that we go into public excluded, because they are the next items to deal with. So there's a recommendation there for the items discussed, and there is items listed. There is one other item that's a late agenda item, which is 15.7, which is also Mayor. Have you moved, Deputy Mayor, seconded, Councillor Ward? I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, declare that carried. So an hour in public excluded. Just before we adjourn, we'll adjourn to morning tea till about 11. Then my plan that we go through to 1 o'clock, and we have a lunch break, we'll be back. We'll see how we're going, and after that, but if we aim to adjourn for lunch around 1 o'clock. Right, so we'll see you back here at 11:20, but we're now in public exclusion.